So how exactly did we get to this place with China, the symbiotic relationship of U.S. big business with this communist authoritarian dictatorship?
So in Lucas Kunce's new piece, The China Hack and How to Reverse It, Lucas tells the story of how the shortage of PPE during the pandemic made Americans realize just how dependent the U.S. has really become on China. This was a great piece, Lucas. Great to have you.
Good to see you, Lucas.
Hi, thanks. Fun to be here.
So it's funny because you really lay out in this piece something we've been talking about here a lot recently, which is the way that the Chinese have kind of understood our own system better than we do and have been able to exploit those weaknesses, and especially, our adherence and obsession with kind of the bottom line in the way that corporate power and wealthy individuals have so much sway in this country. Just make a little bit of the case that you lay out in this great piece.
Sure. I think the basic of it is that after the financialization of the economy, which sort of began with Milton Friedman and the Chicago School of Economics, we have taken a very narrow approach to the economy, to our resources, to our innovation, our industry, and that is that we need to follow self-interest above everything else. And so, in fact, Milton Friedman essentially says you have to follow profit no matter what, and it's a social responsibility. That's a paraphrase, but that's pretty close. And so,
No.
Well, what we saw is that I guess, China figured this out, and they figured out that all the things that we create and build in our industries are controlled by individuals, and these individuals are subject to the profit slave. And so if they want to get our industries, our intellectual property, our manufacturing base, anything, all they have to do is make it profitable for those individuals to make the decision to go to China, and they'll do it.
Yeah, and Lucas, what are the consequences of that? Because we found it out with PPE, but, it's funny, I was just talking with you. I attended a briefing that you delivered, I guess it was over a year ago or now, whenever you were working in the Pentagon, and you were laying out all of the structural problems that we have from a defense point of view. And that's just defense. Now we have, PPE whenever it comes to masks and ventilators, but, there are a lot of other non-vulnerable industries which are basically in the same boat. Why should Americans care about this?
Well, I think it really, the first thing that brought it to light was actually the tariff hearings. So at the tariff hearings, you had all these businessmen and women come in, and they were basically like, you told us to do this since the Clinton administration. You said, go to China for manufacturing because it's going to bring democracy around the world, and it's going to be great for America. And we discovered during those hearings, the people that came up and testified, we can't make prom dresses here, we can't make Bibles here, we can't make the ink that goes into the dollar bill here. For defense, we can't make most of our major end items, weapon systems, without some components or resources coming from China. So China has strategically captured our entire supply chain, and it makes us vulnerable, and it hurts American workers too, because we are losing skills that we need to try to get back, and we're losing good-paying jobs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a loss on.
You open this article with an incredible story about satellite manufacturers, just as one example of how China has operated. Just lay that piece out for people.
Well, sure. So in the 90s, there were two powerful satellite companies who wanted to start using. What happened was the space shuttle wasn't able to take up commercial satellites anymore after Challenger, and so there weren't enough rocket rides to space for satellite companies in the 90s in the U.S. So they looked to Europe, but Europe was really expensive, and China came in and said, you know what, we'll give you rocket rides for half the price if you come over here and want to use our systems. So that wasn't allowed because these are the same rockets that China used for their intercontinental ballistic missiles, and there were sanctions on China for missile tech transfer. So the two powerful CEOs of these companies were both very politically connected. They lobbied the Clinton administration and Congress to make an exception for them. They went overseas. The Chinese rockets crashed time and again, and these companies actually taught China not only how to fix their rockets, but how to do investigations into rocket disasters so that they can sort of fix their rockets in perpetuity. And these are the same ones the same technology they use to point ICBMs at our cities. So essentially, U.S. industries taught China how to make its ICBMs more capable in case they want to use them against the U.S.
Great. And apparently that's profitable for everybody involved, right? And this is the amazing thing. How do we get out of it, Lucas? What can government actually do about this? Or is it just an intractable problem at this point?
No, I think there's a lot of things government can do. One of the things, so at the same time that was happening, actually, McDonnell Douglas sold a bunch of missile machining equipment to China because they were trying to get into the Chinese airline market, which after China got the missile machining equipment, they psych, we're actually not going to let you in. But in that process, the actual workers at the factory in Indiana made a bid to try to buy the Chinese or to try to buy the machining equipment and keep running the factory there. But it would have been the same price, but McDonnell Douglas sold to China because they wanted the Chinese airline market. And so something that would have helped there, and with a lot of industries that get shipped overseas, is that they're profitable here, but they could be more profitable overseas. And so I think what you would have is if you had, say, employee representation on a corporate board or some sort of financial instrument here where employees can get a loan or some sort of financing to buy what is already a profitable manufacturing plant. I think you'd see these industries stay here, and we keep the good jobs, and people would still know how to make things.
Yeah. Well, you lay this out so clearly. Thank you so much for doing the work here and writing this terrific piece. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. We'll have more Rising for you after this.